All right. The nature of the 7 cosmic paths. Three types of magnetic work. After all, this is called the path of magnetism, isn't it? What's it called? What's the actual name of the second path? Path of magnetic work. 3 types of magnetic work have been mastered by the adept who treads this second path. He has mastered in the 3 worlds the magical work of form construction through the manipulation of magnetic energy and the utilization of phohatic attractive energy in order to bind the builders. So it's as if he has done work in white magic, I would say. Work in constructive magic in the 3 lower worlds. Okay, so he's certainly a manipulator of energies, isn't he? He has mastered in the 3 worlds the magnetic work of form construction. So that's constructive work, okay. 7th ray, 5th ray, it sounds like those rays are important. 7th ray, 5th ray, 2nd ray, okay, let's say 7th, 5th, 2nd rays. This he does through the medium of a purified lower nature which can act as a perfect transmitter. So he has undertaken a successful magical constructive work in the 3 lower worlds. He has learnt also the secret of group coherence on the higher levels of the mental plane. The secret of group coherence on the higher levels of the mental plane, because these are where the egoic groups aggregate, where they are held together in connection with his own planetary logos and with those 2 other logoi who form with his logos a systemic triangle within the solar system. Well, our particular planetary logos has 2 such triangles, maybe more, but certainly we have Earth, Mars, and Venus, and we have Earth, that's 1. We have Earth, Venus, and Mercury. That's another. So the secret that holds the egoic groups together in relation to any planetary logos, he has learned the secret which holds the egoic groups together. And with those other 2 logoi, okay. What else? He has passed on also to a comprehension of the forces which unite various streams of living energy emanating from them, these other planetary logoi, in the furthering of the plans of solar evolution. So it's how 3 types of planetary forces help solar evolution. This becomes possible to him when he can function in the monadic vehicle and is conscious in that unit of force, and therefore he has to be a 6th degree initiate. I can't see functioning in the monadic vehicle before that, unless maybe we could say that even though, let's say, we still have a personality, it is possible for us to transpose our consciousness into the causal vehicle even before the personality is dissipated. So maybe this could occur before the 6th degree. In other words, he still has a triadal vehicle, and he can focus within the monad before the triadal vehicle is dissipated. Maybe that is possible. Okay, so these are the accomplishments which this type of individual is capable of. What does it say here? 3 types of magnetic work. In the lower 3 worlds, on egoic plane, and also in relation to the power of planetary logoi. He can comprehend the forces which unite the streams of living energy. All right, from these different planetary logoi. This does not seem like an easy path. I guess none of them can be called that. This has been expressed in the old commentary in the following words. I think you'll find this interesting because it shows us why people on different rays at a low level of consciousness don't like each other until they reach a higher level of consciousness. The 7 brothers love each other, yet each seeketh for many eons the path of hatred. They hate and kill each other until they find that which dieth not and is not hurt. Together then they stand and serve, and through their service the 7 suns burn up, which is the climactic development at the end of a solar system. It's like the 7-fold jewel becomes 7 suns, and this signifies the consummation of a solar system. But along the lower lines, they hate and kill each other, but when they find the spirit, they can stand together. All right. So anyway, we get the idea of the kind of magnetic work that the adept on the second path has already mastered. Constructive magic in the 3 worlds, the secret of what holds the egoic groups together on the higher mental plane, and also comprehension of the forces that unite the streams of energy from 3 planetary logoi. The 7 suns are destroyed because when synthesis and unity are reached, and when the differentiated forces become one homogeneous force, the attractive or magnetic effect of this coherence is a manifested unit on the physical plane as well as on the subjective side of nature. This produces necessarily the destruction of all limiting forms, the merging of the fires and the blazing forth into objectivity of the vital body of the Logos. The blazing forth into objectivity of the vital body of the Logos prior to the final abstraction and subsequent dying out or obscuration of the solar system. So the 7 suns are related to the chakras, the etheric chakras. Yes? Yes. 7 suns related to the etheric chakras of the solar logos. Anyway, there are different explanations for this blazing forth, but just yesterday we read that every one of the jewels has 7 facets, and there's something about the splitting apart of the facets of the jewel at the time of consummation. All right, we're talking about the second cosmic path. The will or purpose aspect, which is the spiritual life behind all subjective and objective phenomena, suddenly makes itself felt and also seen. It is the product of this, which is the main production of this, which is the main work of the adept who passes on to path 2 from off his particular ray path. See, he had a ray path leading to the 6th initiation, or to the 5th anyway, and now he passes on to a path which is cosmic and is not particularly a ray path. So let's see what we have here. Let's review that. The will or purpose aspect, which is the spiritual life behind all subjective and objective phenomena, suddenly makes itself felt and seen. So apparently the adepts on this path, adepts on path 2, are to make objective the will or purpose aspect of the spiritual life behind all phenomena. Okay. All right. Those who tread this second path work with magnetic or attractive energy because they have identified themselves, with it. Those who work on this path have identified themselves with magnetic or attractive energy. They have been on the second ray line, the fourth ray line before becoming masters. And actually what that's telling us is that the monadic ray is not really coming into full dominance until you become a master, and even somewhat beyond. So soft line soul rays and hard line monadic rays lead to this path. Eventually they will pass on to path 7, which is the path of absolute sonship. Okay, those who tread the second path work with magnetic or attractive energy because they have identified themselves with it. Okay, all that can be said here in regard to their efforts is the statement that this path carries them through the medium of the logoic head center into the heart of the one about whom naught may be said. Wow, this is amazing stuff. And it reminds me of the days that I used to read this book every morning fully from 5 a.m. to 7. And as I say, I underlined everything and understood nothing. But it was kind of fun just to keep the ruler going, as underline. It gave you that sense of accomplishment, even though it was flying above the mind. This path carries it. So where is the logoic head center likely to be found? See, take a look at this map. Here is the human etheric head center, the human emotional head center, and of course here we don't have that. We have the sacrifice petals, and we have the jewel and the lotus. But analogizing from the position of the head center on the emotional and physical levels for man, where do we think the head center of the solar logos will be found? What is the analogy to the atomic subplanes of these systemic planes? See, all of these 7 planes are systemic, and each one of them has an atomic subplane. So cosmically, then what? Where do we think the head center, the etheric head center of the solar logos will be found? Some cosmic thing, some out there. Okay, but take a look. The nice thing about this chart is that when you look at a solar plane, or you can call it a systemic plane, you can make an analogy to the cosmic plane. So here is the cosmic physical plane. What is the atomic subplane of the cosmic physical plane? In other words, every top plane of the 7 is an atomic plane, right? So this is an atomic plane, This is an atomic plane. This is an atomic plane, atomic subplane. Now look at the big picture. What's the atomic subplane out of these bigger 7? Isn't it this? Isn't the entire logoic plane really the atomic subplane of the whole cosmic physical plane, and therefore the head center is found on the atomic plane. It's found on the logoic plane. Right. And we talked about this just the other day when we said, well, where is the heart center of the solar logos found? Well, we analogized from below, and we saw that the heart center was found on the second subplane. So what's the second subplane? It's the monadic plane. So where is the throat center of the solar logos found? Well, we went down here, and we saw, oh, throat centers are on the third plane. Well, up we go again. Maybe the throat center is found on the atomic plane. This is a tricky little problem here, because sometimes DK makes it seem as if all the chakras of the solar god are found on the Buddhic plane. But that doesn't hold up to the law of analogy. So if we go a little deeper, we probably discover that the first, second, and third plane have a kind of a structure like the first, second, and third subplanes down here. Anyway, this path carries the adepts on it through the medium of the logoic head center on the, presumably, on the logoic plane, ruled by whatever, Vulcan or Uranus and the Sun, into the heart of the one about whom naught may be said. Well, what's that? If the one about whom naught may be said is the great being who uses the Pleiades as its central point, what is its heart center? What is the heart center of the one about whom? And you know, we can say, is it another constellation? Is it, for instance, Orion? You know, Nicholas and I have speculated a lot about whether Orion is the heart center of this greater being. Yes, some people think it's the solar plexus. Sometimes some people think Orion is the solar plexus of the greater being rather than its heart. And, you know, they're entitled to their thought, and I think they can, from their perspective, they can justify it. But anyway, it may be, you know, we're writing in mystical terms here. It takes you through a structure on the logoic plane into the heart center, heart of the one about whom naught may be said. So maybe in the same way that planets are chakras within our solar logos, maybe these constellations are chakras within the greater being. And so then you would look for the constellation that represents the heart. What is it? And it could be Orion. But and some people actually think it's our solar system. But I've always said about that, well, you know, you're dealing with constellations here. You're dealing with constellations, and then you want to put our tiny little solar system as the heart center when all these other chakras are represented by big constellations. Something's wrong with the magnitude there. Look, you know, we just have a lot of marvelous hints, that's all. DK's giving us a piece here, a piece there, little bit, until it all begins to shape up a little bit. The point is, we are groping our way into a greater wisdom than would be possible for us if he had not written what he wrote. There's no way, living our life as we do, that we would be able to think of these things. It's just a gift, you know. Someone standing on the shoulders of giants, and on, has given us something that would be inconceivable to the human mind. So now we're given the opportunity to study this, the gift of light. All right, he doesn't give us the whole thing, but he gives us enough to get a conception, and that's important. Yeah, Eric. I told you that the most severe and debilitating conflicts between esoteric folks I know have been about the one about whom naught may be said. What's really going on in the one about whom naught may be said is this. No, it's this. And on until people who should be friends are spitting at each other over the one about whom naught may be said. The one about whom something may at least be said. Well, you know, I remember when Martha did her project a long time ago, she brought forward an idea that in the headdress of the pharaoh, the great bear was found. This was a long time ago, but maybe you remember it. And in the headdress, Martha, this was your paper. I know it was 10 years ago, but okay. or more. It was 15 years ago. And in the headdress of the pharaohess, Orion was found. So the Great Bear, the Cosmic Manu, Ray 1, the head center. The Orion, the feminine, the magnetic constellation for the pharaohess. And it struck me, why those two? I wonder if you remember where you got that. You just dig up your old paper somewhere. Just it was you made there was a diagram. I think there was a diagram. See where you can find that, because that was really an important realization for me at the time. Now, you know, Orion has these incredibly brilliant stars, some of which are hundreds of thousands of times brighter than our sun. At least that's what the Hubble telescope is telling us now as it readjusts the magnitudes of these great stars. And it is luminous, magnetic, attractive. It has this sort of higher form of light, you might say. And from it, Betelgeuse is part of that, a great second-ray star. So sometimes a blind is used there. Betelgeuse, the second-ray star, stands for the entire constellation, Orion. So when Nicholas and I went through this and we were trying to determine which of these constellations, towards which the different paths lead, would be representing which chakras, we combined that with what DK said. He gave us hints. He says the whole zodiac is the heart within the head. 12-petaled lotus in the great God. That's what the zodiac is. The Great Bear is the 7 head centers. The Little Bear is the Ajna center. Some of the Pleiades are the throat center. The Pleiades as a whole may be the crown center. Orion, the heart center, and our own local constellation, the solar plexus center. Well, because you look at the whole, well, it's the wholeness of them. Here's the thing. How many Pleiades are there? Or are there 1,000? The 1,000-petaled lotus. See? So all the, or they could, look, the last word is not in on this. Because we also have to find the correspondence to the jewel that's in the heart of every chakra. And sometimes the Pleiades is even called the jewel box. But anyway, it has a largely ray 2 meaning with some ray 3 meaning with some ray 2. Yes. Orion is called so many things. He's called the hunter, he's called Osiris. He's oftentimes given as a Christ figure, who was persecuted and killed by the scorpion opposing him. You see, we cannot confine the meaning of any constellation to the perspective of one culture only, because different cultures give us different angles on what these things mean, how they respond, how we respond. Anyway, Draco is considered cosmic Kundalini, or the great seventh ray. But of course, interestingly, Draco is up near the crown of the vault of heaven. So the idea may be Kundalini once it has risen. When you think about the enormous picture, everything is about. In one sense, everything is a reflection of the supercosmic mind. Pleiades is the hub of the wheel is the third aspect, expression in a high sense. Yeah, the Pleiades is closely identified with the matter aspect, and it's said to give mind to the planetary gods. But Pleiades have more than one ray, and they are the source of cosmic booty. So they've got a pretty strong second ray going there as well. The last word is not in on this, okay, really. What is the sacral center? Is it Antares? Which is, in a way, a constellation, not just a single star. One of the theorists in this area thinks that it may be Antares. When you consider Sirius, should you consider it by itself as a star or as part of a system of stars with our sun and some other stars? So one of the big problems about this is that we live in a constellation, but we don't know it because we can't see it from a distance. And so the nature of the constellation that we live in should also be considered as one of the chakras of the one about whom naught may be said. And Nicholas and I have been calling that the Sirian system, in which Sirius is perhaps the main star, but other stars are associated with it. The Tibetan has blinded the subject pretty well. And I don't want to get off on it, because it's one of those really interesting things, but you're always running into a wall that there is no final resolution to this issue. But there is such a thing as what's called the 7 solar systems of which ours is one. And that's a constellation. And we want to know the location of that. Now, basically what you do is you go to page 50 of the astrology book, and you see here a map, and this map shows you that magnetic energy is involved in the 7 solar systems, which are involved with Taurus, Scorpio, and Mars. Now the question is, are the 7 solar systems, are Sirius and our Sun included in these 7 solar systems? And something that's been occurring to me increasingly, do the 7 solar systems represent the solar plexus center or the sacral center? Now, if you look at the line of expression between Taurus, Scorpio, and Mars, they're all pretty sacral, because the Mars, I think, is the sacral center of our solar logos. And Taurus and Scorpio, we know, both have strong connections to that center. So there are many unresolved issues here, but we're trying to piece it all together, and some of the things are in the right place. Others have to be moved around. You know, I could get into all the problems that are involved here, but I don't, it doesn't profit to do that. One of the big issues is Sirius. Does it stand on its own as a star? In its relation to Sirius B and maybe the black Sirius C, is it a constellation? Or is it just a star? Or is there a constellation formed of Sirius and other related stars? Binary, and even the dark star makes it there's another, dark Sirius C. And sometimes the Tibetan says, if you have 2 stars together, it's a constellation. Just 2. Which would make Antares a constellation. Antares, by the way, is an immense star. If you've ever seen that scale of the relative sizes of stars, somewhere buried in this computer is that picture of starting with our sun, and things just get bigger and bigger, with our sun beginning to look microscopic, Yeah, you are here, yeah. You are, yes. You will not be reached by the first bite in the sandwich, but the second bite will take you in, yes. Okay. Anyway, a little digression. So anyway, what about Orion? Martha, if you're going home tonight, see if you can find that paper. This may hold the key. Martha may resolve the whole issue. Okay. Okay. All that can be said here in relation to their efforts is the statement that this path carries them through the logoic head center, presumably on the logoic plane, into the heart of the one about whom naught may be said. But maybe, on the other hand, the destination of all the cosmic paths is the heart of the one about whom naught may be said, ultimately. Or ultimately, everything is absorbed into the head center anyway, so maybe the hub of the wheel is our destination, more than any particular planet, any particular constellation. They are swept out of systemic evolution altogether upon a great tide of attractive energy, which emanates from one of the major centers of that great existence, who is the source of the life of the Solar Logos. So one of the theorists along this line thinks that Antares is behind this. I cannot confirm whether that is correct or not correct, but I'm just stating the fact. Antares. Anyway, one of the chakras within the one about whom naught may be said sends forth a great tide of attractive energy. And these particular masters are swept out of our solar system along that stream of attractive energy. This center is, of course, one of the 7 constellations. The 7 constellations, which are chakras in the one about whom. Chakras in the one about whom. As it is the most potent constellation as far as our system is concerned, owing to the fact that this system predominantly expresses love or attractive energy, and our Solar Logos is as yet polarized in his cosmic astral body, it is not permitted to hint, even to hint, at the name of the constellation. However, a better choice than Antares could be Orion. The reason is, as if the name were known, and if enough people could do the work of occult meditation and visualization, accompanying the work with a vivid imagination, it might be possible to attract into our system such a downpour of attractive energy from the constellation involved as to unduly speed up the processes of evolution upon our planet, and thus upset the systemic economy most dangerously. In other words, too much evolution on Earth, then the solar system suffers imbalance. And so he basically says, look, even human beings could attract this energy in, and we would be evolving very rapidly, and our role within the solar system would present an imbalance. And he says, most dangerously. So, you know, these are ideas that we would never imagine. Although I've known people trying to figure out what this is, you know, get together and try to, you know, meditate in the love energy, you know, whatever. I sometimes think that it is Orion because of what is said about Betelgeuse. So let's look up. Tuya was just telling me she had run into some Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse references, of which there are 6. And Betelgeuse is maybe the foremost star in Orion, or at least the one that is most known to us here on Earth. And maybe if we take a look at something, the knowledge thus appreciated by the Chohans is naturally theoretical and conveys only to their relatively limited consciousness the general nature of the group of constellations and the force occasionally emanating from them. For instance, the interest awakened in the public mind lately by the giant star Betelgeuse is in the constellation Orion is due to the fact that at this particular time, there has been an interplay of force between our tiny system and this giant one. Communication between the two informing existences. Students may be surprised to know that the source of the particular cosmic energy which is found streaming towards our system along the third cosmic path, I think, is that of the sun Betelgeuse. The name is, however, a blind. Maybe it hides all of Orion. Betelgeuse, from the occult standpoint, is a system of the second order, just as our solar system is one of the fourth order. And I think this relates to the degree of development. And our system is a Buddhic system. We may be talking about Betelgeuse as a monadic type of system. Okay. Okay, look at this. Influential and potent forces pouring at this time from the great stars, Betelgeuse and Sirius. To these two influences, the disciple of the world in the senior ranks of the new group of world servers definitely react, and they produce a stimulation of the heart center, Betelgeuse, and the head center, Sirius. So, from one perspective, if Betelgeuse is a blind for Orion, and Betelgeuse produces stimulation of the heart center and a line of very attractive energy, then we may think of it as related to the heart. I would say that's reasonable. Betelgeuse, Antares, and other stupendous suns. Well, it's pretty involved, and what's? Oh, you want a page? That one, okay. That page was, and that book was 721 in the book Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2. You never can tell where you're going to find fascinating information. Here he's talking about Betelgeuse in Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2. It's all one big book, right? So maybe when Martha brings in the missing link, we will know why Orion is in the headdress of the pharaohess. Planet Chiron. Planetarium. Oh, because of the precession of the equinoxes. All those, in terms of the tropical zodiac, every star will go through every degree of the entire zodiac in a 25,000 year period. And right now it's moved into Gemini. So I think, let's see, and Polaris has moved into Gemini too. I think the stars are moving forward, but it's all related to the tropical zodiac and where the vernal equinox is pointing. Like I say, so right now we say Sirius is in Cancer. Well, we know that in the sky, Sirius is a lot more closely related to Gemini than it is to the sign Cancer. In 12,500 years from now, Sirius will be in the sign Capricorn, tropically considered, and yet it will still be in the same position in the sky. It just has to do with the Earth's orientation. So we have to keep our sidereal positions and our tropical framework distinct from each other. All right. I feel like, even though I feel a little better today, I feel like I'm moving like a snail, so I'm going to try to speed up just a little bit and become as incomprehensible as possible, as rapidly as I can. Okay. People do not yet realize the potency of meditation, and especially of group meditation. There's no question about it. When you look at Orion in the night sky, it is the most impressive figure. And when you actually study the stars that are in that constellation, some of the very least of the stars are like 60,000 times brighter than the sun. And some are hundreds of thousands of times brighter. There's a couple that are maybe a bit dimmer. So is Orion that source of magnetic attractive energy, or is it not? The zodiacal sign concerned is Gemini in this path 2, and the reason will be apparent to trained initiates on path 2. Now, what is the ray nature of Gemini? It's ray 2, and its esoteric ruler is Venus, and its connection with magnetic work is strong, and it represents the magnetism between the pairs of opposites. So when it came to the first path, what was our sign of the zodiac connected with the path of Earth service? Remember, we've got that green dragon, and he's in front of the sun, and he's holding something in his mouth. What's he holding in his mouth? Scales. Libra. It's Libra. And here, but by the way, remember that there were 2 pillars that were surmounting. So Gemini may be also suggested in some way. All right. The sign of Earth is Libra, or the sign of Earth's service? In other words, is it possible for a planet, an entire planet, to have a zodiacal sign? Yes, there was something about, he said earth sign, but it was a little bit vague. Well, it was vague. Earth sign. Here it is. Law 6. This symbol contains a flaming rosy sun with a sign in the center. A sign symbolizing the union of fire and water. Below this sign is found a hieroglyphic which may not be given, as it gives to the clue to the earth sign. The earth sign. That's what we were reading yesterday. This is it. Well, to me, is this the zodiacal sign of the earth? That's the question. Is it? You say yes, and I say I don't know. I know you've made up your mind about it, but anyway. Well, I think you're saying that Libra is the sign of the earth. What is it? Sun sign, rising sign? Yes, that's for sure. The symbol of Mount is the symbol of Libra. Earth service, which has the scales on the mouth, yeah. Yeah. I just don't know because it's written in a funny way. Because, you know, the words give the clue to the earth sign, to the earth sign. It's peculiar. So for you, it just means the sign of the earth, and for me, it looks like an unusual form of words. Yes. You're not inhibited by a knowledge of the language. It's good. Yeah. Well, if it had said the clue to the sign of the planet Earth, it would make perfect sense. Earth, Earth sign. Anyway, well, we can't really stop on that, but it's worth pondering. Gemini is associated with the second path. A word is necessary in explanation of the expression used earlier in connection with the passing of adepts from off the second path to the seventh. Remember, the first path, what happens to the initiates on the first path? What do they do? The initiates on the first path go somewhere else. How do they get there? What do? They fight. They fight their way onto sixth. They fight their way onto the sixth path. And the adepts on the second path alchemize themselves onto the seventh path. From the 2 to the 7 via alchemy, from the 1 to the 6 via a fight. Sounds more sophisticated to alchemize yourself. Yes, it's the method, yes. Well, let's see if we can understand what this really means. Yes. Yes, it's a transmutation process. It's an elevation of the state of matter, and it's a freeing of the volatile essence by breaking matter and allowing the spirit to fly free. It is stated that they alchemize themselves onto the seventh path. Some idea as to the meaning of this phrase may be gained through a consideration of the purposes of heat when divorced from moisture, and of the meaning of employing such heat. The adepts use the dry alchemical fires to produce the results they desire in aiding the evolutionary process. Well, let's see, moisture, it has a special meaning. I don't know if we should get off into this, but moisture. 24 references. No, we're not going to get off into this. Quality of the sacral center, moisture. Okay. The denizens of moisture, the watery sphere. There are moisture and heat perform their function in unison. Heat playing on the form produces exudation, and the factor of moisture supervenes. Oh yeah, Negredo. Negredo. Oh. Well, we have to research it. There's a special process. It's the waters. It's the waters and the denizen of the waters. Mother, matter, moisture. Okay, I don't have time to do the research here, but mother is the dense physical, matter, the etheric, the astral is moisture. So anyway, there's some sort of dissociation of heat from the astral plane. Hmm. Well, and besides, this is so far beyond our present state that we can't have so much idea as to what is meant. But this is interesting. The purposes of heat when divorced from the watery element and the method of employing such heat. The dry alchemical fires are used to produce the results they desire in aiding the evolutionary process. So this is beyond any involvement of the astral plane. As they use these dry fires, the reaction upon themselves is such that they transmute the electrical spark or the monad within the flame of the planetary life and break it up in such a manner that it can pass through the systemic etheric web and onto that stream of cosmic energy emanating from Gemini. Well, this is obscure, no question about it. I guess if we will have to ponder on this for sure. But are they saying they break up the electrical spark? Is that what they are saying? The dry fires, the reaction upon themselves is such that they transmute the electrical spark and break it up in such a manner. Are we talking about dividing the monad in some way that it can pass through the etheric web of the solar system and onto the Gemini stream of energy? Very obscure, but very interesting. We also have to discuss what the word dry means when occurring on those high levels. Is it possible that moisture may have to do with the monadic plane and heat with the logoic? May it be that on those higher levels, far above the three lower worlds, that moisture relates to the monadic plane and heat to the logoic. In any case, it seems it is possible to transcend the ring pass not. Oh, no, that's wrong. Ring pass not, which separates the cosmic physical plane from the cosmic astral plane. Well, this particular path, as far as I can see, its destination is simply the cosmic astral plane. There are three paths that involve the cosmic mental plane, but well, I think the dryness goes with heat that is separated from moisture. I think the logoic plane will provide that in this sea of fire. Um, well, I'm not sure about that. Let me think about that. am I missing something here? The logoic plane is related to the will specifically. Yes. The 1357 line is the dry line. Well, yes, but not immediately. You, 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 yeah. Well, apparently there is a freeing process that goes on. I could even see in the hints that we had here, when I looked up the word moisture, that there was a type of freedom that was occurring when you produced the moisture you could escape. I'll tell you what. Let us keep reading. They are known. Yeah, but okay. But this is about the cosmic astral plane. That's where this destination is. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm okay. I'm just not sure about that. But let's try to get a little momentum here, so that enough of these words can come into our minds that to give us an overall impression. Um, these adept units are known as absolute sparks of parental love, or in the exoteric language of the initiates, they pass on to path 7, that of absolute sonship. So absolute sparks of parental love. That's what happens when they alchemize themselves onto that higher level. The attributes which the adepts on this path has to possess prior to taking the needed training for the 7th cosmic method of approach is responsiveness to heat and a knowledge of rhythm. This is really a very alchemical path, and therefore some connection to Uranus and the 7th ray will be found here. Okay. Well, it depends on what level. From the very beginning, they've known something about it. The adepts on this path has to possess, prior to taking the needed training for the 7th cosmic method of approach, is responsiveness to heat and a knowledge of rhythm. But then they have to use it in a higher way to make this use the 7th cosmic method, which is alchemization. These words will, of course, mean nothing to the uninitiated, but to some it will convey much, and when it is noted that there will be found, coupled with these 2 attributes, an ability to see the dancing of the particles of heat and the waves of warm vibration, as it is called in an old manual, which those in training for this path employ, it will be apparent that the effects of fire and the laws of fiery energy and vibration are here dealt with. So I do think the sea of fire is much involved. The logoic plane, which is called the Sea of Fire, and which is partly ruled by alchemical Uranus. Those sons of men who at this time search for the heat of the love nature, which in a way is solar fire of the human unit, and who add to that search a cultivation of a vivid imagination and an intense power to visualize, are laying the groundwork upon which this later knowledge may be superimposed. This is amazing. Let me enter through the gate into the way of fire. How does it start again? I tread the way I yearn to know, visions I see, and fleeting. Yes, but this is the heat of the love nature. Maybe it's a specific thing. Because the way of fire seems to be that which burns up all impediment along the line of will. I see. How does it start again? I seek the way I yearn to know, visions I see and fleeting dim impressions. Behind the portal on the other side lies that which I call home. For the circle has been well nigh trod, the end approaches the beginning. I seek the way all ways my feet have trod. The way of fire now calls to me with fierce appeal. Not of me seeks the way of peace, not of me yearns for rest. Let the fire rage, the flame devour, let all the dross be burnt. It's a purificatory thing. And let me enter through that gate and tread the way of fire. But seeking the heat of the love nature sounds like another application of the idea of heat. In other words, the fire for purification is one thing, and the heat of the love nature is, I think, another. But basically, he's telling us how we can even now begin to prepare for this path. If we have a strong magnetism, if we're used to working with the second ray, if we're used to working with the law of attraction, if we have some scientific training about the manipulation of matter, if we seek the heat of the love nature and we add to that the search add to that search a cultivation of the vivid imagination and intense power to visualize, we are laying the groundwork for this path. But this is not an easy thing. This is not the easy thing it sounds, for it involves an identification at present impossible to the majority and a power to realize the nature of that which is visualized, which negates the idea of duality, that which visualizes and that which is visualized. So it transcends duality, even though visualization is used. Now, do we have any idea here why visualization should be so important in the preparation for the treading of this path? The importance of visualization. Visualizing is important for manifestation. Putting the power of the force forward. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting. This is Gemini, and he does give a sign of the zodiac for each one of these paths, and he connects this fusion of the dualities here through magnetic work with Gemini, and Sagittarius he applies to the next path, which is planetary logoi. So we'll have to study that and see why he does so. Yes. I think that the mind place boundaries upon which you might be able to imagine. But if you visualize, perhaps there are not so many boundaries. Okay. So in other words, if you suspend the mind, the possibilities of visualization can reveal things that we don't even expect. Okay, yes. And with visualization, you can also... You can create a what, did you say? A copy of an idea. In the ethers, yes, yes. A copy of the idea in the ethers. Okay. Okay. Well, now let's remember here, gosh, it's almost time for us to go, but let's remember here that in the first attempts to reach these paths, it is taking us away from our local environment. So, in other words, there's a vertical movement initially towards these higher planes. None of the paths, except the first, which is a temporary path, leads to the cosmic physical plane. So even though the paths may become active later, as the person in a way turns around and begins to work on the path, the task of reaching them is definitely an upward movement to the cosmic astral, to the cosmic mental, and so forth. He says it's in the next section in Rays and the Initiations that he talks about some of the amazing redemptive work that is done on this second path, whereby basically it's a cleaning of the astral plane, a cleaning of our astral plane that is accomplished from the cosmic astral plane by these particular manipulators of fohatic energy. And color is extremely important on this path because they work with varying shades of rose light. So the Venus quality and the color rose is extremely important. Let's see how much more we have here. This is all, I'm trying to... Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. It is. I think there's a hint here about the magnetism of Gemini, Venus, the lovers. Yes. The method employed can only be expressed as the entering of the burning ground. The power to do this is gained through passing through 3 preliminary burning grounds, and these we will discuss after lunch. The what? The lovers in the... Yeah. Well, heaven in this case could be the cosmic astral plane. Earth could be the entire cosmic mental plane. The thing that is really an incredible hint here, and is some relatively new thought, is this idea of the use of the dry alchemical fires in transmuting the electrical spark. And a very uncommon thought, break up the monadic spark in such a way that it can pass through the etheric web of the entire solar system and enter onto the stream of energy from Gemini. This is an immensely occult thought. I don't know. Yes, but I'm trying to think. But I'm trying to think about this is the seed of the spirit. What does it mean actually to break up the monad itself? This is well, yes, yes, but that would be the monadic vehicle. Yes, the monad is not on the second plane. No, it's not. But there presumably is an essence which the monad is, and that's the question. What is being broken up? Is it the essence itself, or is the essence being separated from what is not needed anymore? When one thinks about one becoming the fourth degree. Well, here's the thing, you see. The vehicle is one thing and the spark is another. When he uses a word like spark, he usually means the essence of something. Because that's what we are. As monad, we are the central spark. So is it really possible to break up the spark? In other words, it's possible to separate the wheat from the chaff. You can do that. That happens at the fourth degree. It maybe happens at the sixth degree. You separate the causal body from the essence within it, and it rises out of the causal body. You separate at the sixth degree, the temple of Ezekiel is broken, or maybe at the seventh, and then the seed or the central spark is liberated. This is called the volatile essence. But can you break up the volatile essence itself? Anyway, that you could do, but he says transmute it and break it up. And the words break it up I find really thought-provoking. What about when we think about this is still cosmic physical plane? Transmutation is related to the physical. Yeah. Okay. Out of the skin, serpent. Okay. Well, this is, like I said, when I said separate the wheat from the chaff, there's always the kernel at the heart of the essence of the matter within the outer container. And it's often necessary to separate the outer container from the very essence itself. But, when I look at the word electrical spark, it usually seems very essential. But perhaps it can be, through transmutation, it can be further essentialized so that it can escape through a barrier and enter the Geminian stream of energy. On its way, perhaps to Gemini, perhaps. These are some of the deepest thoughts the Tibetan has been writing about. But look, it is 1:45, it's even 10:45. So I think we have to run to the kitchen before it's too late. Okay? So we'll see you back here around 2 o'clock, a little bit after 2. And you can think about these things over lunch. Have I resolved my square? Ever since Gisela told me I was keeping you from eating, I'm now trying to get you out of here, so you just... Okay, deep matters. Okay, friends, we'll be back around 2 o'clock, 2:05, something like that. And which for you will be 12, or let's say 12:05 p.m. Okay.